Hey guys, I hope you're having a good one. Hold on a second. Let's find out if an iPhone can take just as good a video as a professional video camera. Let's find out. Roll the intro. So can a modern day camera phone take just as good a video content as a professional camera? And is it good enough to use to get user engagement on your social media accounts, TikTok vertical videos, or maybe even your website? Let's have a look. Alright, that's done. I'm just gonna... Alright, so I think the next shot should be just a really simple spinning with a bit of a speed ramp involved. Let's see how well a phone camera can actually get that speed ramp into a spin. So we'll get the turntable. Let's give this a go. So let's jump in and have a look at the footage and see how it turned out. 3 different scenes, all typical of what we might be shooting for a customer for product or brand photography. We used the Sony A7s III with a 50mm prime lens, f1.4 aperture, and a lot of the time we were fairly wide open on that aperture. And on the iPhone, we shot at 4K and 60 frames per second on the bog standard iPhone video photo app. So no special apps, no special features, 60 frames per second, 4K footage. Let's scrub through these and have a look at what the results were. So first up is a serial shot with beautiful milk pouring down. And the idea of this shot was to have a look and see the frame rate. So we were able to shoot in 100 frames per second on the A7s III. So 100 frames per second really gave us the ability to slow down the footage at 25% and see that milk coming out of the bowl. To note here was we could change the depth of field and really shift focus from the bowl to the product, and the contrast in the black background and the white bowl and the blue was all beautifully done and easy to kind of edit in Premiere Pro. Moving on to the next clip was the iPhone footage. And the first thing you'll see straight away is just the lack of frame rate. So the iPhone 60 frames per second didn't give us the ability to slow that footage down a great deal. So we could only slow it down by about 50%. Now you can see it missing frames as it's pouring. The color looks all right here, but it took mammoth effort to get it to look this way. So the white balance was completely off on the iPhone. The contrast was really hard to work with. It was really hard to make the blacks black. And we had trouble getting the yellows out of everything. Really hard with the iPhone in this one. So we wanted to show the actual frame rate difference, and that was only one of the things that we found was a bit of an issue on that particular shot. All right, so moving right along, the next shot was a really simple spinning rotation of a bottle. It's a very matte finish drink bottle, so it's a little bit different to a lot of the bottles that you'll see. There's no gloss and not a lot of glass, which was going to make this shot easier to do regardless of the camera. The lighting, we stayed quite dark on one side, so it wasn't a traditional lighting that we used on this product. And honestly, they both turned out pretty good. So both shot on a black background on a black turntable. The A7s III, we were able to speed ramp it in a little bit nicer and faster than the iPhone, purely because the frame rate of the A7s III was a little bit better. I reckon the iPhone's just as good for this particular shot, taking into account getting the lighting right, getting the contrast right between the product and the background. At the end of the day, you can still do that really simple spinning video. Now, where the iPhone might get let down here is zooming in and the quality that you get in the contrast of the blacks, but for this particular shot, the iPhone worked pretty well. Okay, so for the last shot, it was coffee beans falling out of a bag. So once again, black, dark and moody, a black coffee bag and black beans. The first shot was the A7S III, and it would be as you would expect. Beautiful slow-mo, 25% slowed down from 100 frames per second to 25 frames per second. The thing about this one, with the shot with the A7S III, the dynamic range was a lot nicer to play with. So the blacks were black, the depth of field was a lot friendlier, so we could focus really on the bag and the coffee beans and not so much on the background, which, as you'll see on the iPhone video, because the depth of field was very, very different, we couldn't focus on the coffee beans and we couldn't then take the focus away from the black background. And you can see every nuance and every little mark on this black background. The result is just not plausible. I can't say we'd use that in a client video and a client being happy about it. Dynamic range wasn't there. The blacks aren't black. Like, we could pump these blacks down as much as we want and we still had the same outcome. Whereas the A7S III was just a lot friendlier to shoot with and really showed those beans falling out of that bag in a lot friendlier and nicer way. So that's it, guys. A7S III from Sony versus the iPhone. The iPhone was good in the spinning rotation shot because the lighting made it look good. The iPhone lacked on the frame rate and the iPhone lacked on the dynamic range and the depth of field ability. So we couldn't separate our subject from the background properly, and we couldn't slow the frame rate down well enough to really start freezing that milk pouring or those beans falling down. If you had to use your iPhone or an inferior camera to get started, I would definitely be investing the money into lighting, because lighting is going to make that camera perform better. I really think, like, with good lighting, the iPhone could work quite well. If you like this, subscribe, comment below how you've used your iPhone. I want to know if you've actually been able to sell your iPhone footage to someone as a commercial project. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for... Hold on. All right, thanks for watching. I'm off for a beer.